Hi, and welcome to today's episode. I am talking with Lillian Sue, and she is a PR coach and publicist. And I have to say that just in meeting her in the short time that I have, she is so passionate for helping others achieve. And she has this this energy about her that is like, it's not aggressive. It's like when a car is moving really fast, you have to get out of the way or you're going to get run over. But the other person behind the wheel is like, they're just on a mission and they're just going and they're ready to take action. And so it's not like, it's not like they wouldn't stop. It's not like they're going to hit you, but they're just going really fast down the road. And you're like, wow, they're just really going. Like Lillian Sue to me is that person who is behind the wheel and she is on a mission. And she is there to pay it forward, to serve her clients well with heart and with passion and with intentional drive. And that really excites me because I know that when we are working with our clients and we are meeting people in this industry and we are finding our peers or finding our people, we need like-minded people. We need other people around us who get us. And I feel like Lillian Sue is just that person who, when you sit and talk with her, she intentionally listens. She is able to just get you. And I just, in the short, like the few minutes that I've met you already, like that is my perspective of you. And so I really appreciate you being here on this podcast and sharing your greatness with this audience.
Thank you for having me, Dina. It means a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. So why don't you go ahead and start off with just telling us a little bit about who you are, where you are, what you do, and how you serve your clients.
Sure. As you mentioned in that great intro, by the way, appreciate the car metaphor because I don't actually drive. I don't even have a license. So I love that. I'm a PR coach and publicist in Western Canada, and I work with creative entrepreneurs, authors, and clients all over the world on a couple of different things. I help them gain the confidence that they need to push past their limiting beliefs and mindset blocks to learn how to use the right tools, skills, and resources to launch the PR strategies that are going to help them achieve their goals. And I do that in a couple of different ways. I have PR coaching sessions, so individual sessions that clients can book whenever they have time to just kind of go over specific problems. I have the 8-week coaching program where I actually take it from the very beginning and we talk about what their thoughts are and their goal planning and their mindset blocks all the way to, okay, now you've secured interviews. How are we going to share them with your audience? What's the best way to do that? I also have an in-depth PR course that's a little bit more self-directed for the clients that just kind of want to take their time and do the videos and download templates and things like that. Even in that course, when they get stuck on certain chapters, they can book a coaching call with me and just say, hey, I'm on the chapter with media kits right now. I'm really, really stuck on building mine. Can you take a look? Right? Just giving them that option of always having that personalized support. And on the campaign side, because I still do campaigns, I work with clients who are like, I don't really have time for the education component right now, but I'd still love to work with you and to see how you do things in securing media coverage and building these relationships so that I have a little bit of an idea on how to move forward and do that on my own. So I work with clients on in all of these different ways, primarily because I've learned through my years in business that everyone's at different levels. Mm-hmm. And it's up to me to sort of meet them at where they're at, what their comfort level is at, what they're actually looking for in terms of education and empowerment, personalized guidance, all of that kind of thing, and sort of what their goals are for the long term. I'm always encouraging clients to kind of look at the big picture and say, to say something like, I want to increase sales isn't good enough. Like everybody wants to increase sales. Like, and it's true, right? But the
Yeah.
question becomes, how do you want to go about doing that? What are the objectives you want to be able to measure successfully every 3 months, every 6 months, every year? And what are the results you can use to measure how you've achieved those objectives, or what do we need to change in the middle to achieve those objectives? And it's really kind of looking at a lot of the clients that I work with and even the people that I talk to on a regular basis and just being like, okay, what are you doing in terms of a service, in terms of a product, a book, a project, a cause, an event, whatever it is? You've done what you can with social media, with email marketing, and you're hitting a bit of a wall because it's starting to become an echo chamber, right? Like your audience is your audience. They love you. They support you. They're behind you, but they can only buy so many.
Right.
So their audience growth has stagnated. And I always ask them, okay, why is that? And when it comes to PR, I find a lot of common threads in my clients and the entrepreneurs that I talk to, just in terms of what their limiting beliefs and their mindset blocks are, which prevent them from moving ahead with this. It's like social media and email were fine because you create the profiles yourself, you control what you post, and you control how you want to interact with your audience. The moment you bring in a third party, like the media, so, your broadcast TV, your radio, your podcasts, print, all of that, they get really, really scared about having their brands elevated, about being on that stage and not knowing what to talk about, making mistakes, being judged, even worse, being found out as like an imposter. Like imposter syndrome is huge with the creatives that I work with. And together we kind of sit down and I go, if you want to achieve these goals and what you've been doing so far with your current marketing strategy isn't working, we need to push the envelope a little. And in order to do that, I'm going to sit down with you and we're really going to dig deep into what are you so afraid of? Where's your fears, your stress, your anxiety, your frustration, all of that stuff? Where is that coming from? What's the root cause? And once we find out what the root cause is, how can we address what triggers that? And how can we build healthy coping mechanisms to help you push past that and continue moving forward? And for me, I was really introduced to the importance of that because I was able to do my own mindset work.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until very recently, only within the past couple of years, that I've really been able to sit down and share my story with that, because I came to the conclusion that if I was going to be coaching entrepreneurs to push past their own fears, I couldn't very well have them walk the walk if I wasn't going to show them first how it was done.
Yeah. And I love what you said about how you're talking about getting to the root cause, right? Because all of the things we all help our clients with is great. And I feel like a lot of people are teachers, but they call themselves a coach. And so when you can teach them how to do things, yet a lot of people need to be coached through the process, which is asking them the tough questions to help them get internal and answer the questions they need to answer, right? And so one of the things I want to encourage people with, yes, as soon as Lillian started talking about what are your fears? You've been doing all this stuff. Now, what are your fears about this next level? Here's what I heard in my head from a lot of people. I don't have any. It's just nothing's just working for me. I've tried everything. It's just now I've hit my ceiling and that's it. I'm not really afraid of anything because, right? And I think what is the challenge at that level when you've been doing all these things, you're you're marketing and you're getting the clients and you're selling your books and you're doing all the things, one of the things that happens is we believe that we're good. We don't have those fears anymore. Yet, if we're allowing ourselves to grow, there's always going to be some fear at some level every time we're ready to level up and go to the next level. And so if you're one of those people listening right now, I don't know, like how many fears like that, I would encourage you to maybe not look at it as a fear, but first look at what are all the reasons why you're not taking that next step. Because that's where Lillian can help you get to that root cause. If you know the why, the fear is disguised in the why. I feel like a lot of times that's how it is with my clients is, I ask them the whys and I start diving into the whys and we find out the root cause. And it's usually a fear of something. A lot of times it's not even related to the issue. And so people will think that they don't have a fear around it. But it's because they haven't asked themselves the why questions. They haven't worked with the coach around that specific thing. And so know that there's always room for more coaching, for more leveling up, for more growth and all of that with all the coaches that you work with. So I love that. And I would like to ask, you were talking about your story a little bit and how you came to be. So how has resilience played a part in your life professionally and personally? If you can share a bit about that.
I honestly think that it started at birth. Not to get into too many gory details, but I was born about 3.5 months early, which led to some physical issues that I dealt with throughout childhood. So things like physical education and sports were really tough for me. But I found a workaround around that within school and everything to still stay healthy and stay active in ways that worked for me. But those were limitations that I was hitting very early on in life. And I decided, if I was to make a go of things, then I kind of have to figure out how to not make the world adapt to me, but I have to figure out how to adapt to the world. And consequently, there were surgeries and rehab and all of that on a personal level that I pushed through to even just be mobile again on my own 2 feet. And throughout that, as I was growing up, my actual first entrepreneurial dream was to become a novelist, actually. And this was during the pre-self-publishing days. My family, just to give a little bit of background, I'm a first-generation Chinese-born Canadian, so my parents are immigrants. Entrepreneurship was not a word they understood, was not a concept that was supported or celebrated in my house whatsoever. The plan was always, went to school, went to university, got a good job in either law, medicine, accounting, or pharmacy, worked it for 30 some odd years, got a pension, retired, you're good. So in my family, financial stability was priority one above everything. And my parents were not individuals that understood the nuances of things like burnout, understood the nuances of things like any mental health issues surrounding just pushing yourself too hard, understood things like imposter syndrome. You just went and did your job. So growing up, I did not have any kind of support regarding my entrepreneurship dreams. And when I was in university, it came to me that I was also in Canada, we have what's known as cooperative education programs. In the US, this would be paid internships. So I attached that onto my degree because I wanted some work experience before graduation. And it came to me, I said, nobody will hire me for a full-time job in-house if they can't first see what I'm able to do. So in those days, I would literally sit down with a list of phone numbers and email addresses, and I was cold calling and cold emailing 40, 50 companies a day just to have somebody give me a shot to help me build my portfolio so I could prove to people that, hey, I know what I'm doing here. Like, this is what I want to do. And at that time, I made that choice because I thought, I've always loved storytelling. Just because I can't figure out a way to make writing books work for me right this second does not mean that there aren't other people out there who have stories that deserve to be told, and I can help them with that. So I built my business focusing primarily at the time on the social media strategy side of things and the copywriting side of things. And throughout all of this, my parents were the type of people who, didn't understand it, kept trying to push me to just get a job, any job, and not have to worry about the economic instability, not have to worry about, cash flow, not have to worry about, building relationships with clients. And I said, I'm going to be spending over half my life working. I want to be able to enjoy what it is that I do, number one. And number two, make that positive impact so that people are always better off having worked with me than they were beforehand. And I feel more fulfilled on a personal and professional level, if I'm able to create my own frameworks around that, if I'm able to be my own boss, if I'm not just doing projects for somebody else in-house. And I did this right around, I started my business just before the major recession hit in 08. 2013 was a year that I got engaged, which was a cause for celebration, but I didn't make a cent. And at that time, I had other people, well-meaning friends who I love dearly and everything else, come to me and say, "Are you sure you still want to do this? Like, are you absolutely sure? Like, you're okay with it? You're happy and everything?" I'm like, I love what I do. And I've always believed that if I can show people how much I love it and the value that's in it, I can build those relationships. It is the same reason why I added public relations to my services, because I had so many amazing entrepreneurs ask me if I did that, if that was one of the services I offered. And I got tired of telling them no. Honestly.
Yeah.
So I decided to explore, how can I get this education? How can I learn from some of the best in this business, in this region, to really understand the ins and outs of how publicity and public relations work? I put in my time, interned with a couple of great agencies and worked as a subcontractor. And then, came to another epiphany just before the pandemic hit. I took a step back and I said, I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm burnt out. I'm finally ready to invest in that impartial third party perspective that's going to tell me, not what am I doing wrong, but what direction should I be steering the ship in? Because clearly, just following the status quo of being a service provider is not serving my energy levels. It's not serving my mental health. And it's certainly not serving my physical health the way I want it to, because I've been living with a chronic illness by this point for about 6 years as well. And it was only getting more and more exacerbated the more stressed out I got. So I finally decided to invest in business coaching and mindset coaching. And through that, had an epiphany breakthrough. And that was, I fear losing control. And that was huge for me because I had spent so much of my life on a personal level feeling like I wasn't in control physically of my health, of my mobility. Certainly when it came to clashes with cultural tradition and parental expectations. So I really wanted to have that control. But at the same time, I had to take that step back and recognize that with my experience, my knowledge, my expertise, there had to be a better way for me to connect with entrepreneurs instead of always just doing the work for them. Because at the same time, I had a lot of them coming up to me and saying, I would love to be able to work with you on a campaign, but I can't afford it.
Mm.
So in working with my business coach and my mindset coach, who funnily enough actually ended up collaborating with each other separate from me after I had worked with them both. So that was really weird. But, working with them, I came to the conclusion that, there is so much value in the education side and the coaching side because it's empowerment, because it's building confidence. And I'm a firm believer in the fact that when you teach somebody something, it stays with them for life. When you have that knowledge, when you have those skills, nobody's taking that away from you, and I wanted to do that too, because I had come across so many great creative people who had said, I worked with a publicist, the campaign, I got results, but they weren't the results that I wanted because I didn't feel confident enough to stand up and advocate for myself and my brand and what I felt worked better for me. I left it in their court because I believe that they were the experts and they knew best, right? So they came out of that with results they weren't really happy with. And then on top of that, they said, once the campaign ended, my momentum just died. Like I had no idea what was going on, how to restart things, how to keep the momentum going. And I said, there has to be a better way for me to continue to show up and add value to my audience and my clients without having these things happen. Because these were the two most common things I kept hearing from creative entrepreneurs on top of not getting started in it at all because they had all of these fears, because they believed things like, well, I don't have 20 grand to spend and I'm not a major celebrity who thousands of people are already following. Yeah. Therefore, public relations is not going to work for me, right? So I found that it was my job to really help them break down those barriers, provide that education, really demystify this kind of big, scary discipline that they think that, only famous people can really utilize. And also at the same time, really look at how I can build resiliency in my own business in ways that, serve my schedule, serve my energy levels, serve my own mental health and my chronic illness as well, because I was getting sick of, going to bed at night, having a flare up, losing 5-6 hours of sleep, and then the next day being completely incapacitated because I had to recover. That's no way to run a business. That's no way to live, on top of that. And I just felt like I really had to get to that root cause of what was pushing me towards burnout, what was pushing me to doubt myself, what was pushing me to have this ironclad need for control. And when I recognized the influence that my upbringing and certainly the opposition that I had to my rebellion, basically, of wanting to live my own life and to set my own goals and to find joy in my career, that was when I recognized, okay, that's why I have this fear of putting myself out there and sharing this part of my story because I had so much judgment from people like, my own family that you would have wanted to support you and nurture those dreams and everything else. But because I didn't have that, I had instead something to push back against to keep moving forward. I can be thankful in the sense that maybe I'm not using it in the way that they intended, but they've always taught me that there is a way and to never say die and to never say, it's over if I haven't explored all the options out there. And that's why I've, really expanded my business the way I have, because every day it's a question of, okay, how am I showing up and adding value to my audience today? Am I doing it to the best of my ability, or have I explored all the ways that I can do that? If the answer is no, well, then I know what I have to do. I still have work to do. And I think that it's really freeing for me now to be able to sit there and share my story on, this is why I've decided to build my business the way I have, and also focus on paying it forward and empowering so many entrepreneurs, women especially, because we've been taught to kind of downgrade, diminish, dismiss the things that we want out of life in order to fit into a box that someone else has kind of carved out for us. And I think that's very true, especially for women who belong to other ethnicities and who are people of color, because we have generations upon generations of cultural tradition and family expectations to live up to. And, I've considered it, my job because I've broken out of that mold, to try and empower other people to do the same thing, because I really believe that it can be done. Life is too short to not embrace joy. Life is too short to not build a framework that you can feel supported, encouraged, and empowered by, to the point where, Dina, every day I wake up and I go, if I accomplish one thing today, it's a win. I'm not going to stress out about checking off a to-do list every single day, because that's not conducive to my energy levels. That's not conducive to the chronic illness I live with. And at the end of every day, I feel accomplished. I'm satisfied. I'm making progress. I'm taking the steps forward. And that's what I always tell my clients who come to me and they're overwhelmed with starting a PR strategy or a marketing strategy, because they're like, there's so much to do. There's so much to do. I don't know where to get started. And because of that, I'd rather not get started. So what I say to them is, take it one step at a time, one bite-sized chunk at a time. And no good strategy can get started the right way if you haven't sat down and actually thought about, how do you feel about this? What are your thoughts? Do you have fears? What are some of the things, like the rhetoric that you've heard that you believe about it? Why is that? When you've done that, then it's a question of positioning your business, because what you do is not unique. The story of how you do it and why you do it, and I'm living proof of this, is what makes that unique. That's the journey that's going to get readers, viewers, customers, whatever, to buy into your brand, trust you, and believe in you. So what's the story? What are you sharing? And then after that, it's about your goals. Because if you don't know where you want to be headed, you have no idea what you want to do, there's no point in building the strategy, because you're never going to get anywhere. So I always tell clients that when it comes down to that, take it one bite-sized chunk at a time. It's the same thing as when you're getting into the nitty gritty of the strategy and you're building the media kits, you're building the media pitches so that you have something to send through email. You're building the media list because you want to find the right people that are going to get you in front of the right audiences. When we talk about going to the next level, it's these media outlets that have audiences by the hundreds, thousands, hundreds of thousands, and they've spent years cultivating their reputations, building that credibility, their audiences trust. You get featured on that. Some of that trust gets transferred to you and your brand. That's how you build your reputation, right? So whenever you're looking at just building every single one of these pieces, I tell them, take it a little bit at a time. Maybe today you've got half an hour to go look for media context. Maybe you only find 5 people. Hey, that's still great. Those 5 people you found today is 5 more than you had yesterday. There is this perception that you have to rush through all this and you have to get it done and get it done yesterday in order to remain competitive. The thing about PR is that it takes time to build, to basically I call it, you're stacking the Jenga tower to build up all those building blocks. And then as you do that, then you have to take time to make sure it doesn't topple over. And the things that can topple it over is if you're moving too quickly, if you don't do your research, if you're not willing to spend the time to actually build a schedule, to schedule interviews, right? To do events, all of that kind of thing. If you're not willing to give it the time that it needs, it won't work. So really, so when people come to me, that's the other part of it where I tell them, okay, slow down. You have the time. You don't have to be racing out of the gate to get this done because you're not competing against anybody. A strategy is not a competition. It's not a race. It's about setting you up for the long term and helping you build that momentum that's going to keep going 6 months, a year, maybe even 2 years down the road because you have all of these pieces set up already.
Oh my gosh, there's so much to unpack in all of that. It's so amazing. So I want to go back. I have a couple of things I want to kind of dive into a little bit more before we wrap up here. And when we are going through challenges, because we all have them, right? We all have life things that happen where, like you mentioned, being born really early and having to deal with a lot of the things that most people would be told, you're never going to walk again. This is never going to happen for you. And there's that resiliency. There's that drive in there that says, well, that's what they can say. And I'm still going to do the things that I feel within myself I have to do because it's who I am. And it sounds to me as though not only did you battle that from the things that you had to deal with because of the birth issues that you mentioned, but when it comes into a chronic illness, and I have one as well, and so I can relate to that piece. But there's all kinds of things we come up against. And you also mentioned where the family's not supportive. People don't understand what you're doing. You have the chronic illness. You have all the things that you're overcoming. Share with us, and I hope this isn't too loaded of a question, but we have this negative self-talk that happens because we're taking everybody else's lies and they're becoming truths in our mind, in our subconscious. And so when we have that negative self-talk, I would love it if you would share maybe one thing that you do that helps you overcome that in the moment to help you keep moving forward so it doesn't pull you from your focus? And I don't just mean in business, but just in life in general. Like, what is one thing that you do for your own mental well-being when that negative self-talk starts to creep in?
Two things, actually. I remind myself they haven't done what I've done and they haven't lived the life that I've lived. Therefore, their criticisms, their judgments are invalid. I tell myself that pretty frequently. And the other part of it is if I find that self-doubt starting to creep in terms of lack of results, lack of response, not finding a solution to a particular problem I have, I sit down and I say to myself, okay, for today, knowing what I know right now, have I done what I could do to the best of my ability? And if the answer to that is yes, then I've done everything I can. And I can, walk away from whatever that is for today. If the answer is no, then that's when I have to seek out that outside perspective, that impartial perspective and say, this is what I'm struggling with. What's not getting across? Because I feel like I'm too close to whatever it is. And I need that perspective to help me sort of paint the big picture, so to speak.
And I love how you mentioned not only do you talk yourself through it, but you recognize when you need that outside perspective and you need to include somebody else, because we aren't always good at recognizing the difference. So I think those are two great things that will help our listeners. And then I wanted to kind of jump into all the things you were talking about PR, because PR is not something that is often talked about. Like you said, it's often something that we think is only for the elite levels, those who are authors, those who are at certain levels doing certain things, and it's out of our reach. And so for a lot of people, they don't understand the difference between marketing and PR. So would you maybe share a little bit with us about what does public relations even mean, and how do we apply, how can we look at that differently within our businesses if we're not authors or we're not celebrities, yet we're really wanting to set ourselves up in a space where in our businesses we have the opportunities to get on the news stations and get that media visibility so that we can start being recognized on a different level in our industry as the experts that we are?
Yeah, PR is basically the strategic communications process whereby the relationships you build with the media helps to strengthen a brand's reputation. And this is true even if negative things happen. And PR is something that, you don't need $20,000 to do. You don't have to be a celebrity in order to make it work for you. But what you do need is a solid handle on what your goals are, what makes your business unique. And this can apply to anybody, whether you're in tech, whether you are a graphic designer, whether you own a publishing company. It's how are you positioning yourself that makes you unique, of what makes, why you do what you interesting to people, right? And then after you have that positioning and your story solidified, you know where you are headed or where you want to be headed in terms of your goals. I'd love to do trade shows to help increase distribution, let's say in the next 6 months. Well, how are you going to get there, and who are the media outlets that are going to put you in front of the right audiences, in front of the audiences of the people that are running these trade shows, of the people that will attend these trade shows, who will get excited about you, about your products, about your brand, and want to have you be an exhibitor at that trade show, interview you for it. Maybe they want you to do a panel and, audience members can ask you live questions about what it is that you do. And it's really about just sitting down with yourself and really figuring out, because everybody has a unique story. Nobody becomes an entrepreneur really by accident. Everybody has an origin story of why you do what you do and how you do it. And that's really the unique story that's going to get you in front of the right people. But in order to make that connection, you have to figure out how to position it, and also who are these right people that I want to get in front of, and where can I find them, right? And this is applicable no matter what industry you're in, what sector, what type of business you have. I really and truly believe that PR can be applied to everybody, but it really comes down to all these different little areas that you need to have solidified before building the overarching strategy of, okay, now that I have my story, now that I have my goals, now I have to figure out how I want to be presented visually, right? So photos, audio clips, videos, what's my brand identity? What are the things I want to share with them that are going to allow them to get to know me, and also help them formulate interview questions and things like that, and promote me properly on social media. And then it's about doing the outreach to actually build that relationship, typing up the email and telling them your story and saying, hey, I'm available for an interview, or I can send you a product sample, or I'd love to invite you to my event, whatever it is, to build that relationship that will allow them to go, hey, this person's doing something really unique and awesome. I think their story is great. I think my audiences would love to learn about them and their products. And I would love to have them on as an interview guest. So I would love to attend their event and then interview them there, whatever it is. It's not that you can't make it work without thousands of dollars or thousands of audience members. It's really about sitting down and figuring out, what is my story? Because so many of us get caught up in the business cycle. You're dealing with sales, you're dealing with inventory, website stuff, you're focusing on helping clients, that what our story is what really kind of gets pushed into the background.
And I think that's why I would say too, when you're talking about all the things that you have to have for basically your media kit to, share who you are and what you do and get that story in place. We are already working on that with social media. And I think we downplay the fact that it's not hard when we sit down to write our story. We overthink what our story is. I have a social media marketing strategist that I've been working with. And one of the things I love about her is the way she makes it simple to have that conversation. And she goes, well, that's your story right there based on the question she asks. And you're going, what? I've been trying to figure out my story for like 3 months. Right. And so as you're talking about how you help your clients with the mindset piece and overcoming their fears about like of this PR thing, one of the things that came to mind for me was visibility. One of my fears was being seen. And so, which is really weird because I was live on Periscope before Facebook Live was a thing. And I was live on Facebook every day for like 3.5 years. And I did all of that. Yet it was different when I learned I could start sharing my story and how I help and how I serve instead of just sharing the things I learned from others to teach others, right? When it really became about me, I froze. I stopped going live. I stopped sharing. I stopped doing all of that. And it almost felt like imposter syndrome. It was imposter syndrome because I was like, do I even really know what I'm talking about? Because now all of a sudden I can't seem to talk about what I do, how I help. But if I'm reading a book or watching a video or doing any of that, it's easy for me to share 3 things about that and how it can help my audience. And so understanding that when we are being seen by others, when we are looking at what Lillian's talking about with figuring out the fear that comes with being seen and being visible at another level on media, we're so used to believing that if you're in the media, you are like you said, you're a celebrity, you're a professional athlete, you're a art musician, you're all these things. So we don't see our validity in being there. We may not have sold 500,000 copies of our book, or we may not, we may not be seen in that place. And so it's easy for us to believe that we don't have a place there. And so I love how you share that it's a place for everybody these days. It's a place for those of us who know who we are, why we're doing what we're doing. We know what we're doing, how we're serving. We know the process we take people through. We just know. And a lot of times, because we just know, and we go to sit down to write it out, we go, I don't know. Right? We're like, well, I don't know. It doesn't seem like it's robust enough or there's enough value there, because when we know something, we don't see the value in it to the level that someone who's going, oh my gosh, that's what I need. Because we've already been there and we forget the value of that to share with others. And so I appreciate you bringing that to light and helping us see that as entrepreneurs, we have a space there in the media, and we don't have to spend $20,000 to be able to help ourselves get in that spotlight, and it is doable. So thank you for sharing your story, for being open, for being vulnerable, and sharing the things that will help us be able to start looking at PR as something that is an opportunity and not something that's out of reach for us.
You're welcome. That's exactly why I'm here. And it's what I love doing. And I love being able to speak to creative people on a daily basis, such as yourself, about, how you can make it work for you, and that it doesn't have to be this scary thing that's out of reach, because I really do believe that everyone deserves to learn how to use that to help them achieve their goals and become the global industry leaders that I really believe that they're meant to be.
That's amazing. So for those of you listening that want to connect with Lillian Sue more, you can follow her links in the description below. She also has graciously given you guys all a link to her free mindset journal to unlock your potential PR mindset. So thank you so much for offering that to them and giving them that space to just dive in for themselves. And I know that there are many people, I feel like, that will be like, oh my gosh, I never even thought of this. So you guys can connect with her on Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn, and her website's down there. And you guys can get into her world and learn a little bit more about this whole PR thing that most of us probably never even considered. So thank you guys so much for watching. You can jump into our Facebook group community and continue the conversation there. I love to hear your takeaways, your aha moments, what you got out of everything that Lillian Sue had to share today. So that is also in the chat, and we will see you again next time.